Hello, are we ready to begin? Calling us all to order. With our statement of authority, the Westminster Historic District Commission derives its authority from chapter 164, article 9A of the city code, which is authorized by the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Article, Division 1, Single Jurisdiction Planning and Zoning, Title 8, Historic Preservation. The qualifications of the Westminster Historic District Commission are on file at the City Administration Building at 45 West Main Street, and then file is open to the public. Tonight is Wednesday, January 3rd, 7 o'clock. We're here at 1838 Emerald Hill Lane, City Hall, with our Westminster Historic District Commission meeting. And we'll start with our roll call. Chris Amadori, Chris McMaster's chair.
Grace and Kenny Lawler.
Evan Wagman.
Art Pico, the Director of Community Planning and Development.
And Melissa Thorne, Economic Development for the City of Westminster.
It's terrific. You know, we have quite a gallery tonight. We don't usually have the pleasure of the public this evening. And I'm going to take a point of privilege and I'm going to just move some of our business around so that our two things I'm assuming people are here for, we can handle right away, and then they can go and enjoy their evening and we can stay with our 3 minutes and whatnot. So what if we move new business ahead of the approval of the minutes, especially since I have a little problem with the minutes. So let's move them ahead. And we'll start with the pre-construction application for the historic rehab at TC 2302. Melissa, would you like to open this request up?
Sure. Okay, so tonight we're here to talk about a tax credit presented for 160 West Main Street on November 14th, 2023. Tim Kyle, property owner and applicant with the West Main Street Westminster LLC, submitted an application for pre-construction of a historic rehabilitation property tax credit we identified as TC 2302 and attachments via email. And the structure is located on property zoned R7500 with an overlay of the arts and culture zone. The property is located within the City of the Westminster Historic District. It should be noted that on September 5th, 2023, the Board of Zoning Appeals met and the property was granted a special exception for a conversion dwelling to operate as 2 units. In addition to the main house, there is a carriage house and shed on the property. Recently, the main house roof and chimney sustained tree damage. And since getting the approval to operate as 2 units, the property owner has submitted a simplified site plan, SF 23-16, and it is currently under review. This plan also includes a new use for the property and adding a driveway and a parking pad in the rear. This property is considered an eligible property for this program under zoning ordinance section 143-5B, as it is located in the Westminster National Historic District. So a little bit about the project. It's our understanding that the applicant is proposing to repair the 1900s carriage house in the rear. Work will include repairing and replacing rotted and damaged material on this 2-story carriage house. All repair work for the house will include a concrete floor and replacing with wood in kind to include beams and siding. And there will be an added tongue and groove wooden floor. The second piece is repairing of the roof and chimney on the summer kitchen in the main house and the carriage house, which includes a metal roof installation and fascia board or metal repair with a half-round gutter system. The repair of the chimney is a salvaged brick. Number 3, to remove the tree branches from another that is hanging over the carriage house. Number 4, excavate for a driveway, parking area, and swale. And more detailed the job descriptions are included in the application. Our department after review of the application, determined that the tree work was not included as part of the structure. So as well as the parking pad, so that was deemed an emergency repair project as far as the tree removal, and as far as I understand, the work has already been completed for that.
Yes.
The applicant received several cost estimates, on the staff report. They're highlighted in blue as selected, as the selected contractors, and the amounts are listed. All of the contractors have been found to have license numbers registered with the state of Maryland. And here tonight, our recommendation of the board of the commission tonight is to determine if the work proposed is considered eligible, and then to determine an appropriate amount for a tax credit. So I have written out in our staff report some specific language to that effect that might assist, but also if you have any further questions, I can answer some, or the applicant, Mr. Tim Kyle, is here tonight in the first row.
I have a couple of questions. It doesn't specifically state that you'll be doing some sort of basic mortar matching with your masonry work, although I assume with Mr. Muller, you will be doing that,
Yes,
because he's known for doing.
yes, that's why I got him.
Is there any chance we could write that in as a conditional to our approval, just so we are sure that you're using the right mortar match? You know, I hope that won't add any kind of expense. But I
No, it was the original ordinance, that part of the job, as Liz said, it's been completed. Because I have some photos here, I don't know if you would like to see them. The condition of the chimney was ready to fall. And it was, when I brought Mr. Muller out to look at it, it was his opinion and mine that we need to have immediate attention to this. And if I can get you.
in full disclosure, this is a structure, Melissa, you and I went through, isn't it?
That's correct.
So we've already spoken to a previous owner about work within the last year. So we've had a chance to actually walk through,
Yes.
which was very helpful. Very, very helpful, and very nice to hear that you're stepping in. I have one other question. So is this gonna be a personal residence, or are you doing this for commercial?
It's gonna be 2 residential units. That's per the, I was granted by the zoning board to have 2 residential units. It's gonna be a unit upstairs and a unit downstairs.
It sounds like a personal question, but are you gonna personally live in it, or are you renting it
No,
out?
I will not be there.
So for historic tax credit purposes, for other agencies, that's considered commercial. And the reason why I ask such a nosy question is that there actually are tax credits for a project just like this through the state. And they offer almost 20%. And then they will help you apply for federal tax credits, which are also 20%. And at this time of the year, you may not have that long a wait. For work that's completed on an emergency basis, I doubt they'll allow it, but you have property, then another 40% probably won't hurt you in the least. It's paperwork that can be filled out. I can help you. I've done it myself. But it's pretty self-explanatory. And you know, the only real cost is you have to wait for them to do the approvals, much like we like to proactively approve things, not emergency. So that's why I'm asking these questions. We can be helpful with the state and federal tax credits. Just as a general information, our rules are no different. We very much stick with the same rules of our rehab that the state does. And if you get through our rules, you're likely to get through theirs, although there's one person in the room who knows that hasn't always been the case. Every once in a while they deviate from us, but we try very hard to have no daylight between us and the state administers the Fed program, so they have the same rules. So even though you have different forms to fill out, there should be no different scope. They shouldn't be telling you something different, like we don't like that paint color or something. You won't be having those kind of rips by design.
Very good.
That's by design. So we're gonna try and be helpful.
Okay.
Lastly, there is a 2-year thing where the work has to be done within 2 years.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean you can't come back to us for additional tax credits. It's just you're gonna wanna talk to your accountant, make sure it's reasonable, because you can only collect 10% of what you paid in. And so, you can collect it over 5 years, but some projects are so big, they'll never really pick that up in 5 years. But some projects, maybe segmented such that,
Every little bit helps.
yeah, you wanna be sure and parlay this with your accountant and see, even if you come back 1 year late for another segment, that might push your horizon out to catch that year 6 on a second application. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There's a lot of money flowing, we can do anything to help you, but I recognize this is. All right, so do any of the other commissioners have any questions?
The carriage house that's gonna be used as like, it's just like a garage or,
Yeah, maybe storage or something
Okay.
like that. Yes.
Or what's some sort of plumber storage?
like hanging racks, when the scene is like.
It's interesting because it's, places are so rotted. And then there are places that look like it's just been milled.
Right, yeah.
It is the weirdest little building, been exposed for a while. But the places that look like they've just been milled is just cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think some of the damage, if you remember, they had a fire there.
Mhm.
And that fire caught, you can still see on some of those photos that there's burnt spots on the side of that. And I think that ruined the integrity of the roof of that corner. And that water has just been running in there. And I know that fire was probably, 15 years ago? When it burnt all those garages up there. And the guy who
Look how much more.
was the shoemaker.
Look how much numbers I have.
Bought that house there, and that's where he had all this.
Emma, look.
And they all-
Look, Emma.
So
Look
that's.
at the numbers like. And
So it's.
all their numbers.
Part of that shed is gonna be left.
Yes.
I'm just gonna leave it there because.
Now, it has a second floor loft, but I was too scared to go up the steps.
No, you can't. I got pictures of the steps. He wants.
The past homeowner wouldn't let me. I would have done it because Mark wasn't there to tell me not to do it. The past homeowner said, I'd rather you not. And I sort of thought, I'd rather me not to, so. All right, well, are there any questions from any of the commissioners? If not, let's look at the suggested language from our city staff. And Melissa, where is the exact motion you want us to make, so we're super clear?
If you could first make a motion about the eligibility of the property. And then the eligible work on this particular project. So it looks like my specific assisting language is better off on the actual eligible work section. That's 1 and 2 at the very end on page 505.
So I would like to entertain a motion that the property is an eligible property. Do we have a motion that would go with that?
So be,
Do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Chris. So, any further discussion about the eligibility of the project? Right there on Main Street. God, it's eligible. All right, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Aye. There you go. And then none against. All right, so is there perhaps a motion that the proposed work as outlined in attachment 1 qualifies as eligible work?
so be,
A second? Thank you, guys. So are there any questions about the eligibility of all the work that's proposed with the proviso about the north? No questions, then we move to vote, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Aye, all in favor, okay. So we determined that property is eligible, the work is eligible. And then the next question would be, is the have we determined that the estimated project cost is accurate and acceptable? Your motion for that effect?
So be it.
And Chris, how about a second? Any questions about the cost of being accurate and acceptable? He did it great. It's obvious. No questions, all in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. All right, great. So that's approved. So let's move on then to approving the certificate of eligibility tax credit. Essentially, we're then agreeing to the tax credit with this motion. You have anybody who'd like to underwrite that motion? Kevin, you're on fire tonight. Do we have a second? Oh, Chris is almost on fire. So essentially, this is to approve and grant the certificate of eligibility for the historic tax credit in the amount of 10%, which would be $5,034.30. And do we have any questions from the commission? Hearing none, then I'd like to get a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Just got.
All in favor with me too. So thank you very much.
One additional question. Go back to the free work. My understanding, free work. Let's say a tree falls down, isn't it like in the code of the city to immediately fix it, repair it, meaning part of me says that should be, we can talk about whether or not that could be included.
We should revisit that because in the past, we haven't allowed for that, but we haven't had too many tree damage things come before us because they've been treated immediately by folks with their insurance. But that doesn't mean it couldn't be because landscape is included in our ordinance. So maybe we should talk about that as a potential change of practice. Well, it wouldn't be a change of ordinance because I believe we would be able to do that. It's just in the past, we haven't approved things that have been done as a matter of emergency.
Well, only because we usually do a free estimation. I don't know if the landowners thinks that the tree is going to fall down, so it falls down. And with like many hurricanes we have had that we never had before. I just brought this up for us to talk about.
So maybe let's ask city staff to review that thought. And we can bring that up as a matter of policy at a later meeting. Where we could see what latitude we really have within the ordinance and see what we're really allowed to do rather than our practice.
Already had it written down, but yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mark. Oh, you're good. So anything else on this particular?
Well, thank you for entertaining that.
We'll look into it and do it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just for the record's sake, can you clarify the note? It was mortar type O is the condition?
Well, we were just asking for matching mortar,
Matching mortar.
matching mortar, and we trust the contractor there he's used actually did look at that.
Okay, great.
Because he's well known for doing it.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Mr. Crowley, your business is done with us tonight, unless you have any questions or concerns.
And the only question that, when as I move farther into the house, that is where I should go in for the state and federal.
You could do it right now for this work. Anything you're waiting to wait for them.
Okay.
But, we're happy to counsel. But they again like to do, just like we do, in advance of the work, get the approval. Because there might,
which I will do.
yeah, there might be something they wouldn't be happy about. And you should just know that, right? Before you spend the money.
And can I get the information from Lisa or?
I can send it to you, however, she is the expert right now,
Really?
so I'll leave it on her as I'm learning, yeah, for the state and federal programs.
I used to work down the hallway from federal guys, and they would say whatever the state says, so even though it was pretty much be. But we'll, I mean, that's good,
Thank you, everybody.
absolutely.
Can I add something?
It's on.
The city's tax credits are on property tax. You know, it's a refund.
Yeah.
The state and federal tax credits are income tax credits, so that comes after the
Yeah, that's
income tax. There's a special.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dan, because it comes immediately. With us, it may dribble over 5 years, depending on how much you pay in. Main Street property, $5,000, you're paying that, like easy. But, 20 and 40% comes off your income tax, it comes from your income tax. One year I did a huge 6-figure project in my own home, filled out the paperwork, and I got a $33,000 tax credit, or tax check from Maryland.
Mhm.
Hardcore cash, didn't have to wait. It's a little better. I never paid that much, and I can tell you. All right, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving down our amended agenda, let's go to new business item B. Ms. Lewis, would you like to introduce this to us?
I would love to. Here tonight, we're discussing the project at 30 Carroll Street, where Shepherd Staff is currently located. And as we know, Shepherd Staff is a 501c3 nonprofit. They've been working with BPR, LLC, and Dean Robert Camlin and Associates to work on the demolishing of an existing structure located at the property. The existing structure is in very poor condition. So BPR is currently working on a site development plan for redevelopment of the site with a building that will operate as a community center / meeting hall. Although a demolition permit has not been filed to date, it is the intention of the project. City staff has met with Carroll County and representatives for a pre-submittal meeting on December 21st, 2023. And the subject property is a special exception use requiring Board of Zoning Appeal review and approval. A detailed property and structural inventory report was received on 11/14/2023, conducted by Mr. Jim Weber. Okay. I really appreciate you having a thank you. My apologies. Okay. The property is zoned R7500 and located within the Westminster Historic District. It is not listed with a specific car number identified. However, again, it's in the Historic District. Information on our Historic District tax credit program has been shared as well. And the project involves the structural inventory. I have 2 copies located on the desk here tonight as reference. They're pretty big. These structural reports can be pretty lengthy. This was the same, engineer that had done the one for 328 East Main Street. That was the Shining Star example that we had recently looked at for reference. So that is there. And tonight we're really just recommending a review of the structure and a recommendation for the demolition of the property.
The hard part, Melissa, is we need some time to digest all this.
Understood. It's a big document.
Yeah, I go over it and then I do the checklist with our standards to make sure every one of our standards has been met. Each Sanborn map has been looked at and presented. Each one of our recommendations for consulting has been done with the historic record. And I hate to say this, especially a building that's not in our inventory, this may be all the history we ever get. And frankly, I'm not prepared to make a snap decision tonight. That's me.
My intent is this is not a tomorrow project.
Okay.
The applicants are here and representatives on the property. If you have any further questions on that, But like I said, there is a process for Board of Zoning Appeals approval as well. Is there a planning commission? There's a planning commission requirement. So this is just a very beginning step of the process. So it's been presented for your comments. Yeah,
So there's no history here, right?
not according to the Maryland registry.
No, but I mean, they haven't done any of the historical research we requested.
There was some mention, Jim pulled in here.
I'm not seeing any Sanborn maps, right? So to me, I need to look this over and double check against our standards and say where the deficits are. I'm gonna need, since this is my first plans, I'm gonna need some. And how the other commissioner. Alright, well, is there anything we'd like to hear from our folks who are applying? About the condition of the building? Will help us interpret this better?
Good evening. I'm Randy Bechtel. I'm the owner's representative from Grace Lutheran Church, vice president of church council, and have been designated as their representative to help with Shepherd staff. Brenda Meadows is the executive director, of Shepherd staff. Brenda's been operating over there since 1994. Dean Cameron is our architect, everybody knows Dean too. I'm with BPR Incorporated, BPR LLC, in addition to being the owner's representative. This is really we consider step one in the process. Our intention is to apply for a demolition permit here in early spring. We brought with us tonight a site development plan, which is going to go in and be submitted very shortly before city and county staff. We have not, Mark, I don't think we're on the agenda yet for the zoning appeals or applications, and we're very forthcoming for that. Melissa, did you provide them a copy of the
Simplified site plan.
no,
Site plan?
the building inspection report?
I only provided a copy of the inventory
Yeah,
of the structural report. That was all is that what you're referring to?
no, we had a second study done by an inspection group on the condition of the building. One of the things annually between Grace Lutheran and Shepherd staff, there's a tremendous amount of maintenance being performed on the building. And Brenda has with her here, Ms. Menace has with her here this evening, the inspection report, yeah. And I thought I think I made that part of the submission, but
Okay.
that tells you about the condition of the building.
That would be super helpful as well.
Yeah. And so we present that tonight, or you can forward it to the commission or whatever.
Be super helpful.
Okay, yep, I can go ahead and do that when you
Yeah.
send a digital copy.
And that kind of gives you a better feel for the condition of the building. And like I said, we've been spending a ton of money on this. It's not one thing where we are.
Me too, thank you. I'm grabbing this, Melissa, because I'm on paper.
Okay. Yeah.
And we can send it.
We got, yeah.
I'm checking my email now to see. It can't hurt to resend it. So there was a file sharing service for one of them. I think sometimes there's so many of us in our planning department, perhaps one of us got it and the other one didn't, because half the team's working on the BZA report, and my role was our historic district commission. If I find it here, I'll say it.
Send it in the Dropbox or.
Yeah.
Or a child, but anyway, you have a copy of that. You have with us if you want to take the site development plan and the elevations, what Dean's done for us, the reconstruction. It's a total demo of the building, okay, total demo of the site. The reconstruction is what our plan is to return it to the same general look that it has today. From looking at it from the street, the side vision is going to be different from the parking lot, but the general, front version of the building will be. So you think for what we see today, right, Dean?
Yeah, very, very similar, although it'll be set back about 10 feet or so,
Yes.
back farther from the street than the house. One of the problems with the building now is that it was built as a residence and it's been operated for years. It's 30 years, right?
Let's go.
As really a kind of a community center and as really for many years been over capacity. So the new building is going to be much larger than the existing building. It's proposed to be 3-story basement plus 2 stories above grade. So in that way, it's similar to the existing building, but much larger. Which is why from the side, it's going to look very different than that house does now.
Can I ask what level of consideration went into salvaging parts of the building? It's really the historic fabric and its preservation is one of our greatest goals. And we have to know that every effort was made to doing some sort of salvage of this building, some sort of reinforcement, some sort of, like, to me, it's a little troubling to hear the front's gonna look just like it does now. Well, then why doesn't it just look like it is now with some reinforcement? What kind of consideration was put into preserving and protecting that historic, irreplaceable fabric?
There've been a lot of discussions and be looking at initially when we started down this road, we wanted to do retain the building as it was and do an expansion of it. When we had the historical inventory and regarding the inspection, we were told that the building has outlived its usefulness. And we've had a few people come in over the course of the attic. I've been told not to store anything in the attic because it could fall down on my head. That the building just is not safe. There are other issues in the building that are the floors and the structure of the home just isn't such that it's livable.
Well, I'm sure it's not now,
Yeah.
but no historic structure.
Yeah.
Lasts forever without some sort of shoring up, and as an option, it would seem easily feasible and prudent to at least consider, you look in the bigger picture of historic structures, you're never gonna diminish demos. But at least some sort of consideration should go for that, or at least portions of it, especially in parts of the building's gonna be just replicated. It's like, then why are we doing this?
It'll be replicated from the perspective of what the exterior of the building looks like.
The visual.
The interior of the building will. Yeah, it's not gonna match at all. The building is so small. And it's an old home, which, if I'm perfectly frank, I absolutely love. But it is so cut up that it's a little tiny rooms where it's nearly impossible to function. In addition to the other expense of everything in the home, the electric, everything would need to be, not that it couldn't be done, but at that point, I don't know that, it would be feasible to do.
So I guess the question is, has anyone put this pen to paper? And really fleshed out the argument for how none of it can be salvaged, how it has to be just a complete wiping out, rather than keeping a portion of it for, entry and storage if nothing else, or keeping a portion of it as part of the landscape of town, but making the rest of it completely functional. Like, is there some compromise? And I guess that's the question, pen to paper, is there a compromise? I realize people have told you, but you're not people with any historic, kind of.
It's down to how much money you wanna spend. I mean, we
It
have
always
foundation
does.
issues, it's down to
always
the money. We have foundation issues, we have all the infrastructure within the building itself issues, and we've spent money over, geez, the building was built in 1885, and we've spent money year after year on the maintenance of the building, and it's just outgrown what Shepherd staff really needs.
Our concern is, and to put it in context, you're not here every month, every meeting, and almost every single meeting, people come in and they wanna tear something down in the town and just rebuild. So, I mean, so that's why we ask these questions, because if we didn't care, we just let everybody tear down the whole town. So we ask these questions because that's the whole point of this. So we're here to help. And my question is, if the front can look similar, like, why can't the side look similar? Like, why is the side so different? Like, do you have renderings of what it like generally
They do, but I would really rather, before we get too far into complete demos, that we have some demonstration of some effort towards at least considering some sort of compromise.
There was an earlier sign that I did probably 5 years ago, that preserved the original house and built an addition on here. And the problem that we found is that the existing house, the floor to floor heights are nowhere near what you need for a commercial building. It's residential, so you might have 9 feet to go from the first floor to the second floor. But in a commercial building, you need a lot more than that to accommodate ductwork and other services, structure and everything. So what we ended up with was such a compromise where the addition was
Mommy, look.
tacked onto the rear of the existing building with ramps and different, floor level allowances. And the basement level was also difficult because for that, to maintain the first floor level at the same level, well, the basement had to go down farther. So we would have had to underpin the existing foundation where the connection was made. It's very, very expensive to do that kind of work.
Dean, could you write that up for us as an alternative considered?
I can show you what the original, that original design was and how really unsuitable it was. With design work, it's a series of compromises.
Mhm.
And you reach a point where you're just compromising too much. You have to remove that part to really get to what you really need to address the program issues.
Although I have yet to read this,
Yes.
I would really love to have that as a backup submission so that we can see the process. I trust you people. I'm a Lutheran too, by the way. But I really need, as part of our deliberative process, to know every effort was made to preserve and protect fabric. Historic fabric is always going to be more expensive. So, before we go to what I always think of as a Kmart solution, what are we doing that's best for the historic fabric? Not just this property or the organization, there's a community good that happens. So, the economy is really important of any building, the feasibility of any building is really important, but going above and beyond for the historic fabric in a historic district is just crucial. And I would love for you or someone else to pull that data together for us as part of a submission, so we can say we at least try, right? Everybody who comes in here, we have to say they at least try, right? Otherwise, why do we? You could just fill it in and we're not even. Here's another question. Is there any part of that structure you pay taxes on?
The rainbow's cool.
Answers no.
some nonprofits still pay taxes. I know mine does, at St. Ben's. Because we have a building we rent out commercially, so we have to pay taxes and we would benefit from a tax credit. However, you guys have no benefit from our tax offerings, if I understand this correctly. That's true.
This one time, yes, I think that's true.
So no state credit, no federal credit, and no local credit would be of use.
But unless there was some way to transfer
Yes.
tax credits to someone else.
Yeah, like, do you have does Grace have other properties they rent that they do pay taxes on? Because that could be helpful regardless of how this all, you know. It's why we miss you. Okay. All right, do we have any other questions?
Well, I have a suggestion, looking at page 60 or photo map 85. You have an attic door and a light. Maybe, I don't know how this is going to be funded, and it's not our privilege, but let's say, I noticed there was a fireplace mantle. Maybe that could be bid off to
That's it.
use as a fundraiser for you all.
Okay.
I think
Let me go.
Westminster people salvage is big.
See if you
I think in a way, I think Westminster, our community period is very giving, and maybe the mantle's worth $50, but somebody would pay 500,000 because of the great job you all do. So when I look at the pictures, it is old. I have no help, but I can see somebody has put love in it. So only thank you for doing what you do. And I also like you talked about having a community place more than you have now. As you know, it's all about community. I
We
think
need to do it.
people
I love them.
want to have a community hall to go to. So they cannot, even though I'm on historic district, think of the wear and tear that a normal old house has. Now you have it semi-commercial. Think of all the wear and tear. That's why it worn out. And you mentioned foundations. Foundation is huge. If you don't have basic guts, you have nothing. But you guys, I can tell over time, have did a very good job to keep up the appearance. Thank you.
One last thing you can take home to your council. I was on the board with Dean and Firmly Grace and maybe even Kevin when the Parsonage Trust was taken down. And if you can find that historic structures report, that was really well done. And I always look back on that as one of the better ones in town. So if you find that in your records, share that with us, because I've asked for it before and I think it's lost on our record side. So if you find it, make a copy for us, I would really appreciate it.
That was one that was done by Jerry Truscott.
The only one done by Jerry Trust.
I'll bet no, our book has a copy. Maybe.
I'll have to look at my files, I have Mr. Mel's files in the church, but you're talking about the house at the corner, of Kemper.
No, the one that was turned into a multipurpose room. It was torn down. Your church is a repeat offender.
I was involved with that project in 2002.
Was it 2002?
Yeah, and Wayne Turner, Dave McGinnis, Wayne Turner.
That's not right.
I might have to talk to Dave, he was working on that, but it was two houses. It was one on, right on the corner where the columbarium sits today,
Is that where handicap parking is now too?
no.
Cause that was the big thing, we have to have handicap parking and it has to
And
be there.
that's on the south portico where, oh my gosh, she lived in that house, that's on the south side where the south portico is. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
It was really a well done report. And, you know, it's a demo.
Yeah, I'll look around and see if we have a copy of the church files or Dave has a copy.
You'd be great. Jerry knocked his socks off on that.
Jerry Trescott. So, he's the one who prepared it.
To see a local guy here.
Now he's in Tennessee.
Way, what to, or something.
In Tennessee, I'm still friends with his wife. He did a very, very good job, and frankly, I always mourn the fact we can't find it in the city. That he's moved, so. Great, thank you so much.
I'll look around for you. I know where you're talking about.
All right, do you have any other questions? All right, thank you very much. We'll paw this over, we'll look it over, we'll send you a suggestions if we need to.
Or you can even Melissa and Mark there, how to get a hold of me, so we can get you the additional information if they need to. Yeah, and I'll work on it a little bit. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so on to our agenda, let's go back to more mundane things like approving of the minutes summary. We can find some out.
City guys.
So long.
Make a motion, we accept them, even though you initially said there was some problem, you would know more than me.
Well, let's have a second on that and then we can open up discussion. We have a second on our minutes? Thank you there. I will say, my problem is under the president's report, I don't work with, or I haven't worked yet with Ellsworth Cemetery, it's the Westminster Cemetery. And I'm having a great time with the digitizing project.
Wow.
Yes. On cemetery and they're not that many.
50-50.
No, there's St. John's too.
Yeah, there's three at least.
very suggestive.
All right. So with that addition, can we can I
I
just,
make a motion, we accept the minute with the new rates for revised.
Ah. There we go.
seconds, stink. Is that gonna work, Melissa? Do you want me to just scratch this one out? Just scratch it out?
We'll get you a new copy at the next meeting.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you very much for the minutes. Alrighty. So, next topic is old business, historic implementation plan. I just thought it would be important for us to actually put out our implementation plan, since we haven't really looked at it in much detail since the summertime when we workshopped over it. Melissa, were you, or was it Mark, going to step us through some of the things that we've actually accomplished along this plan so far at this mid-year point? Were you prepared to do
I
that?
am not prepared, however,
I can.
Mark, okay, somebody can.
Well, some of the things that I think we've been working on, improving on, like demolition permits from 288 East Main Street up to now, get a much clearer picture of what we ask people to provide and better examples. So I think that's certainly improved on what we've obtained in the past for demolition. And I think that's continuing to improve. Then off of that, I think the other element that we've been doing, I think is a step forward, which I think is generally covered in this, not to the regulatory point, but any new developments coming to the HTC and having the Historic District Commission, having some recommendations say on the design of the building, again, 288 East. This building, the same thing. Ultimately, this would have to go to the planning commission, so you would have a chance to review the elevations and provide comments for that, if again, if they are unable to preserve some of the building. So I think those are steps forward from the implementation plan of having more say of development and how the historic district looks. Other things that we're moving forward on, we did receive the money for the inventory, and we will be processing RFP for that. I know Chair McMasters and Melissa are working on that. We actually talked about that today. I think what we recommended is to itemize maybe the RFP instead of eliminating elements. So maybe then if you want to take off that element because we don't have funding, you don't know what you're going to get back until you ask. So maybe you itemize and ask for quotes for each section or each element. And then again, then if we do get those quotes back again, maybe we can use that for future funding as well. But so I think that's a step forward. That is the base of, I think, everything we're looking at. The implementation plan is updating the inventory and gathering additional information for the historic, not only the district, but other properties in Westminster. And then I think the bigger picture one is the comprehensive plan for Main Street and the historic district. And I think we talked about this, so we are still working the RFP for that. We did put funding in the budget for that project eventually, and that will be looking at downtown Westminster preservation efforts, redevelopment efforts. So we'll have a guiding plan of what we want to see and preserve in Westminster. I certainly see that as being part of the comprehensive plan work, which the Historic District Commission will be part of, providing comments within that area for development, redevelopment, preservation efforts. So again, I think that's a huge element too, that I think really does shape and will shape where Westminster downtown will be preserved and will be as we expand a lot of vacant parcels we have downtown and properties that the city owns.
So one of our educational strategies was signage. How are we doing with signage in the department?
So I know we've had discussions about color of sign. We've talked to Public Works. Obviously, they don't have an issue with signage. It's how it's implementing it at this point. So maybe what we need to do is we come back with some concepts of signage for the Historic District Commission to start working on and finalizing, so we can start actually purchasing some of those signs.
We do need to kind of keep that ball rolling, especially since we have willing players in city agencies, just have to kind of continue to pressure public.
No, I'm not.
We did meet with a traffic group talking about traffic within downtown and access points in, it's really truck traffic related and other elements of downtown. And that was posed as well. I think we know where we will put the signs, but if they have any concepts or even examples, they can help provide us too. So we met with a representative with them about a month ago. So I think the next step is, like I said, coming back with some set of plans or sign examples that we can at least work through to finalize.
So commissioners, you haven't seen this before, but I just felt like this might be more helpful than me just saying we're doing it. I think maybe it's a way of tracking some of our progress. We could either hit this quarterly, or more often if y'all want, but it seems like we should be able to do check marks as we do stuff, so we can pat ourselves on the back of doing something rather than saying we're doing something. Melissa, I gotta ask you about the inventory. Last we talked, just before Christmas, you were working on the scope with the state, which is different than the RFP. Did you fill out that scope with the state?
I sure did. Yep, I got that submitted. That was due like by December 20th. I haven't heard back from them or seen an agreement.
Did you eliminate those things we discussed? So, just so Mark knows, we got less money than we asked for. We asked for 50 grand, we got 30. And my concern is, okay, you'll give us the money, there's certain things we can't do. We may still do them because we're good guys. Or we find somebody who's can afford to do them. But I just wanted to make sure we weren't on the hook to do some things since we have less money to work with.
Can we get supplemental grants from somewhere else to fill the, I don't know.
Anything's possible, anything's possible. But sometimes you pick things that will be attractive points wise. Once they give you the money, you don't need those points anymore. So you can eliminate them if they don't give you all the money. Does that make sense? Some of those items were those kind of points, you know? So we'll do as much as we can do with the funds we have. So Melissa, now that you've sent that in, you submitted it. They will come back to you with a executed agreement by their top administration. You get no warning, you get no, blaze of bugles. But one thing you do get is as soon as they do that, if they already have your information on file, a check will pop up at finance. Direct deposit, and it'll be 50% of the project.
Okay.
So those are your two signals for knowing to move ahead is you'll get the executed agreement from their top level and money will show up. I don't know how you track whether money shows up, like I would think only finance knows that.
So we'll send a message to our finance department that says we've been awarded a grant and please expect it to come in. And then they'll let us know when they get them, they're checking in the electronic funds transfer program and then they see it. So the RFP process is about a 4 to 6 week process legally. So I don't, it needs to be kind of scrubbed now and work, and finance is actually the entity that puts that out. So they'll be well in the know for this, so that's a good heads up though with the 50%.
It will just pop, the money will appear, at least it has in this grant programs I'm familiar with at NHG. Secondly, when the RFP is announced, can I ask a personal privilege of knowing so I can have some of my friends bid?
Sure.
I'll just let them know.
More the merrier, we absolutely would love that, yes.
Exactly, I can't say they will, but I would like to give people I know work well an opportunity. Yeah. That did sound right.
That's okay,
People I
I
know.
understand.
Know of. All right, so we were dancing in the streets over Christmas. We've gotten the announcement that we got the funds, although they weren't quite all the funds. So the last question, have you found out what the city's commitment is to this project?
We have to narrow that down as far as, and definitely 30 is in there. I'm not sure if we'll have any extra or not, so. When we get I think that answer will become clear once we have some bids back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so just the delicate question I'm asking is, we went in for 50, the city was bullish with their 50 half. Now that we only got 30, the question is it still 50 from the city, or are they backing up to just match? And that makes a huge difference, it's a $40,000 swing. And that's a big difference from whether we can do the entire city or just the historic district,
And
which we're just doing the historic district.
who makes that decision? The city council makes the decision? Whether they could get the full line share or not?
When we purchasing falls under, if the threshold will actually, I believe, go to the council for this one, it should be.
It depends on how it was budgeted and what was
Right.
approved by mayor and common council. If it was solely for matching only, So yeah, I just don't know that line item that falls out of my department and, but we can certainly find that out. We can always do a budget amendment possibly, unless that money, I just don't know personally how the financing works. It's matching or, yeah. So we'll ask that question.
And the one last thing is, one of the items that we removed because of cost was doing an archaeological predictive model. And I knew that was gonna be a little pricey because you have to hire a firm with that consulting ability. And I personally pledged to Melissa that I would do the model for us, just for free. I'll sit down and I'll model it out and I'll lay out the best I can so that we have something in writing. This is gonna be a volunteer effort. And I'm old and retired. So it's not like if you hired a young, fresh archaeologist right out of grad school who has more expertise in things than I do, you're gonna get an old person's model, but I'll put it out on the table.
It's archaeology.
Yes, Fran Ganell, and I'll allow the world to use it for a few years and then maybe in 20 years we'll want to update it. It won't be the final say on any, but I'll make sure that hole is filled because it's part of our ordinance and we should be filling it. So that was my pledge. I'll be good on that. Also, a couple of people have been bragging about doing this, have said, I'll help you. I have one person who's a local historian who said they really would like to help go over the quality of the history that comes in for free as a consulting.
Nice.
And I think that's fabulous when we can get people to step up and be helpful to us. And we're all, of course, all gonna wanna do that too. And we wanna look over the data that the contractor comes up with, because there are sometimes really obvious mistakes, you know, just of the figures where you're saying in 1970 that, you know, the city had its 100th anniversary and this, no, that was 1870 or whatever. It'd be something different. Typos, yeah. All right, Melissa, did Mark leave anything out? Because we are working on this. It's just harder to prove it.
It's not as easy as a checkbox. There's a lot of, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, but it really, each one is meaty. There's a lot to them. So I think that the progress that has been made should be a pat on your back worthy already,
It hasn't existed that long
It hasn't.
in the planning world.
So we're, number 5 is being worked on also, or how is that being addressed currently, or is it? So standards for, instead of suggestions,
Guidelines.
here's what you gotta do, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's already been amended to be the same.
Of anything in the standards of renovation for new development downtown, whether it's if it's in the historic district, I require to meet the standards of renovation.
If there's a cover sheet that says guidelines, we should have that edited, so nobody gets confused.
I don't think
so,
this one says guidelines. I know there's a design preference manual calls them guidelines, although you have to get planning commission approval to modify them. So to me, I believe those are standard as well.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's no need to modify them. So yeah, any new development is a design preference manual. If there's anything in the renovation, standards of renovation that can apply to newer redevelopment, we certainly apply that, as well as the signage for now. Signage is one of the elements that we apply to signage regulations across the board in HDC. And the historic district commission, historic district, per se.
Alrighty, well, I think we're gonna have to take this home. One thing I noticed on page 1, Melissa, there's more ink for us to do than anyone else. And that never hit me before. HDC responsibilities are inkier than DCPD or mayor.
I think that's because it's the historic district commission implementation plan.
Ouch.
We're all partners working in the same goal.
Do we have any questions?
Look
Any questions? If not, then let's move on to the nation's Q50. And to be honest, I don't have much to report on that. I did bring along a little something to share with you all. This is just a little handout from the state.
Thank God.
If you wanna go look up and see what the state's doing, you can. This is their calling card. Every time I go to an event that says anything about the Maryland 250th, this is what I get. They are leading the flag bearing. So if you want ideas or concepts, they're supposed to be putting up resources. Please keep this somewhere. And if you think of something you wanna do for the 250th, this is some stuff to think about. So that was my little gifty poo for today. Shoot. Okay, Carroll County History Day, this is looming quickly, February 24th. Melissa, you may remember last year you helped prepare the stuff for us. And Grace and I and Josh were there, and it was a fun day. And I wanna make sure everybody's got that on their calendars, that you can come help and do a shift with us on that day. Melissa, get it on your calendar so you can get me the stuff I can set up on Friday. I think, did you help me set up or was that something else?
I just gave you the stuff and you went and said, I think, did you help Grace? Somebody did.
Maybe I did, I can't remember. I remember going on the Saturday.
Okay.
That's always a problem weekend, because it's my dad's birthday. He will
Oh.
be 89, so we celebrate every Saturday.
I would think you'd celebrate every Saturday and
Yeah, he still works full time.
No way.
Yes, he is. He'll be 89 years old and on the 22nd.
wow. Well, maybe you can come Friday and help me set up. I know, it's a 10-minute deal. Okay, great. Well, just please keep this on your calendars and other people who don't have fathers who are having birthdays. Okay. Next, item D is recruitment of a new commission member. I think I have someone. And I'll just take a breath and say, please look in the camera and wave at them. They're watching us tonight. Be friendly and smiley and hopefully they'll join us. Alrighty, let's bounce down now to item number 5, Historic District Commission and public comments. And I'm gonna start because I did bring a couple of handouts for what's been happening on my side of things. So you know, I've just stepped down from being chair of our president of the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. And I thought to myself, you know what? I never really shared our brochure. We're in that heritage area and that brings us some benefits. And mostly it's grants. They have 2 kinds of grants, mini grants and non-capital major grants. And this brochure just talks a little bit about the type of heritage we're trying to save. It starts with Civil War, but we believe the Civil War is an unresolved conflict and that actually the Civil War goes till today, you know, with civil rights. So there's a lot of topics out there. This has got our range of area. It's not full counties. There are specific areas within the Civil War Heritage Area. So Westminster's really lucky to have an area that neatly falls within this organization and it's they have 2 goals. One is heritage and one is tourism. And you might be surprised, there are a lot of tourist scholars out there and we can sometimes leverage history into viewing tourism and tourism dollars translates into preservation of history. So I thought maybe this might spark your imagination. I also thought, I know it's hard to imagine, this is an annual year in review. That does not sound sparkly and exciting. It's an annual report. Usually those are deadly dry, sandpaper dry. But I just thought you would see our organizations, which is happy and it's got a lot of, you know, images which show a whole different thing on all the different kinds of mini grants, regular grants, how we leverage our heritage area economics into $450 million worth of heritage tourism. That ain't bad for our small little heritage area. 6,376 jobs. It's something to be celebrated, you know? So I thought I'd share these with you guys. Again, you can see what other people have done, and maybe that could spark your idea on how to apply it to Westminster and the preservation of our heritage and frankly, our public appreciation educationally and tourism wise. So this is meant as a resource for y'all. And we do have another grant round coming up. That would be in late February, early March. It is it has both capital and non-capital opportunities, but it's mostly non-capital, but there are capital funding opportunities. It is a 50-50 match. And it's done a lot of work to help with the Carroll Arts Center, the German House has had this fund match. So again, we might want to think about that. With this recent match that we just got for the digitizing of the historic records in Westminster, that is a state funded base. So is this, so you can't use state money to match state money, unfortunately. So we won't be able to go into the next round looking for money to fund the other half of the historic research. But if we come up with a different idea, that's what's doing the digitizing project at Westminster, so anyway, I've been up to my ears in that kind of stuff. And working in the cemetery. Westminster, so. All right, so Chris, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Grace?
I have nothing to report.
My goodness. Heaven.
No, but I have something back to recruitment of new commissioners. I think 99% are on different boards because they want to give back to the community. And I think part of now the word volunteerism has become a dirty word. Look at many organizations, you cannot get people to volunteer. So part of me says, can we evoke a benefit package that we can say, being a part of this gives you this? And I think people need to realize that being a part of a commission is good. Now, how to present that, I don't have any idea, but part of me says people want to be appreciated for being on a commission. So one time, we used to have a party here in the old City Hall building. And to me, that was a sign of appreciation. Also, at one time, that you could get, an individual could get membership to the gym. Now, part of me says that is a good thing. You meet people and you discuss things, and it's amazing the camaraderie that is grown from that. But I think they stopped the membership when the city gym had problems about money.
Renovations, I thought maybe. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was renovation. Well, Kevin, these are good thoughts. Let's keep having them thought. I will say the person I'm approaching right now, think the thing I hear loud and clear is they don't wanna be political. And I'm trying to explain to them, this is not politics. This is another party.
Definitely not
We're not doing politics. You know, but I think there's a kind of a feeling that if you're working with government, somehow you're doing something political. We're not, no, I've never done anything like that.
I just don't want the city to fall apart, that's
No.
that's all, that's
I
political, you know.
ever feel there was politics. I think, and one of the things I noticed, I'm the chair of the ethics committee. In my tenure there, nothing political has ever come up as an ethical thing. So part of me says that is a misnomer.
All right, well, thank you so much, Kevin. Do we have any comments for the record from our city representatives tonight?
Well, we have two openings, I believe. We have a regular member as well as an alternate. So we do have two openings still on the Historic District Commission. I would say even as an alternate, if you're gonna be an alternate in the commission, this is the commission to be part of. Because I think you have more availability, more say and it's more involvement than you may in other, like the Board of Zoning Appeals or Planning Commission, where you really can't speak on some of the cases out of before them, where I would think with the Historic District Commission, that is not the case. So you have two openings. You don't have to be a resident. What is it? You can be a non-resident, but own rural property in the city. So we already meet the requirements of the number of members that have to live in the city, as all four of you live in the city. But even if you have property within the city, you can still be a member. We did expand that, as you recall, some years ago. So again, a lot of opportunity.
I think we'll manage.
Yeah.
I think we look forward to it. This Christmas time is hard to think.
Yeah.
Okay, and Melissa?
It's a new year, so we are processing tax credits, like the actual credit to folks who have paid at the end of the year. So I'm happy to report 2 of our applicants are getting paid. And I reached out to the Maryland Department of Planning to see what we could do with our structural reports that we've been receiving over the last year. And they will be accepting them in their digital library database. Also talked to the state archives and they sent us to the planning department.
Oh,
So-
Melissa, that is so great. I sort of forgot I asked for that.
You know,
It's been on this list.
I thought it was important because people are doing the work. It needs to be made sure that, so we'll have a paper copy in our office. But the digital copy will be on the Maryland State website. So I'm happy to report that. So
And it's fabulous. If we can get Grace a copy, that would be good. Their work that we asked them to do. My big fear as an ex-government worker is that we do stuff to us. You would hate to ask the public to do something that's already been done. You know what I mean? All right, so if there's nothing else before us?
I have one more thing.
Okay,
So as you know, Leanne Champney has left. We do have a new hire. He started Tuesday. It's Joe Atkins. He was the director of planning for the city of Frederick. So he has since retired and has joined the city of Westminster. So we are fully staffed as of now. Hopefully, I would love to have more staff, but we did get a great hire for the city of Westminster.
Wow, and what is his title again?
He's a planner, city planner
Oh,
in
okay.
Westminster. Yeah. But he was the director of planning for the city. of
Frederick City.
Yep.
So he had to be able to get us any Frederick breaks.
Yes.
For 30 yeah, so he's, yeah. But we already had a little discussion in our department meeting today. He did point out that does have some suggestions that he can help out with the RFP and other elements too, as for historic district information, so.
Fantastic, fantastic, and you're being fully staffed, that is really great.
Could still use about 2-3 more people, but sure.
But when was the last time you guys had full staff? Before COVID?
October.
Leanne, and then, so Leanne got us to full staff, and then,
Okay, great. Well, thank you for all these comments and this information. I was learned so much. I think this, however, brings us to the adjournment part of the agenda. So if we would all like to adjourn tonight, please indicate by saying aye.